And if you believe that, indeed. Hey folks, my name is Robert Vitovich. I'm the interim director here at the Area Art Museum, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Therman Statom this afternoon. Mr. Statom is one of the most dynamic and influential artists working today, and he is a fantastic conversationalist, if you haven't figured that out already. His primary medium is sheet glass, but his work incorporates diverse materials and crosses traditional boundaries of painting and sculpture. He studied at RISD, the Pratt Institute, and most famously with Dale Chihuly and Pilchuck. And his large-scale public works may be seen at the Los Angeles Public Library, the Corning headquarters of Mayo Clinic, the San Jose Ice Center, the Toledo Museum of Art, the Telfair Museum in Savannah, and locally at the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters. His smaller works, and I say smaller in quotation marks, may be seen at the Bryson Museum of Art locally and here at the Barry Art Museum. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Therman Statom.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
That was good.
No,
This will be a treat, folks.
I hope it's a treat, but let me think, where did we start? You know, I like this city, it's good here, and I like the history. I want to thank Robin and for just how the facilities developed. I'm overwhelmed by it. And I thank Robin's wife because I have a feeling she probably had more to do with it than he does in a way. You know, they always, it's like Levinsky gets the credit, but his wife really was really made him. She really did. She supported him and stuff like that. Who knows what's, okay, I'm in trouble already, okay? This, when I learned to blow glass, the whole European, Italian, the influence was pretty much built around American techniques. We didn't have much equipment, and then when I went to school, because I was black and there weren't any people in the field, everybody made everything easy because they thought I was stupid. So everyone said everything I made was great, even from the very first day I blew glass. It was awful. And, you know, so I had I would do the assignments at RISD or where at school I was, and then I would do them again, like usually 3 times from different points of view. So my blowing sessions were designed to, I would blow and do cylinders. Then I had to bring in a different set of tools. So this day I was using the axe. You know, I was chopping the glass. So, and I never worried about a product on those, like I wasn't allowed to. So I would just, like, what are you going to do? And it was so much fun to just chop it up, you know, and there were quite a few things. This one was a volcano. I saw volcanoes, and I was young. I was 18. I was 18 years old when they brought me in. So see here, it broke, and it went all over the floor, and started a fire beneath the concrete, and man, was that a performance, you know? And I told Dale, it was a performance. They weren't too happy because they had to close the shop for a week. But, you know, then I blew like this one, I blew all these by myself, punning and everything in one evening between like 8 o'clock at night and 4 in the morning. And then I didn't know what to do with them, but I had them stacked up that way, and I had a critique, and Dale Chihuly came in and said, that's a great sculpture. And that was my first sculpture. And then I figured these things out, like, so we are pretty, you know, it wasn't figured, I mean, it was just sort of assembled. It wasn't like calculated, this thing. Minimalism was a really difficult time to go to school because the teacher accidentally, we had some sheetrock on the floor, and the teacher thought it was my piece, and he wouldn't shut up until I told him. But we started talking about it, and we decided not to tell him. and we were going to build a wall. And so it was really a big part of my life has been getting to the S. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, what is the inherent value of what you do? And that was a big challenge for me. And I think we still run into that, you know. So I you know, and I thought that process and learning that was more important than the objects you make. Because how do you become good at, just because you have a degree doesn't mean you're a good artist. And how do you define all those things? So anyway, so I thought of things I did, like I started using color, because I never had used color. And this is one of the first times I actually used color. And I wanted to paint. I wanted to be free of the need of a facility. And like right now, I'm really interested in making a Barbie. I don't know why. I'm really intrigued by this thing. And it's weird, you know, it's kind of like, just because I have a feeling about something I want to make doesn't mean it's worth making. You know, and so this show, man, was the dealer grumpy at me, because he didn't have things to sell. And then he started selling the parts. But, and I invited like 9 artists, like half of the Seattle Glass community to come and help me. So different people would come in and do things. And, you know, you can see the house in the back. You could climb up inside of it. And, you know, there were references. There were references to that tower, to a tower at Auschwitz. I could go on, you know. But there were several. That was, you know, early in the field, no one worked on this scale. So a lot of the shows I was asked, and I would also fill in. So, like, Toledo Museum asked me to make this piece. And they asked 3 artists to reference a piece in the collection, and I could pick out anything and making objects. So I took, like, that blue vase. There's like 27 or 8 references to objects. And then what did I do? Oh, then I made this thing. And I always wanted to travel. I didn't travel much, so I used a lot of architectural elements. And then it was done. They were pretty happy about it, I guess. And then I was going to throw it out, and they wanted it back. Somebody figured it out, and they permanently, just in the nick of time, and I repurposed the piece into this entrance, the back entrance, and it's there. And they use it as an educational tool, like you can, all the primary, like all those blown pieces are replicas from their collection. And I glued some of them. So I used to be able to do it better, you know. I'm very involved in it changes in different forms of advocating, but they all stem from education, and but they involve, a lot of them deal with displaced populations, Native Americans to Korean. And I figure out stuff, but I was asked to do a show between 2 organizations, the Lakota tribe and this Appleseed, which does a lot of justice issues. So this is just an installation that we did together, and it was challenging because the actual meat of it, they had this exhibition, but the dialogue created discussions that dealt with perspectives from a multicultural view on issues of justice and how it was implemented. So there were good things that came from it, like I dealt with pulling together resourcing and things like that. And I lived in Omaha, and I had this show, and I thought it was in November, and it was in July. So 3 weeks before, I had to make some. So I ran out there, the Museum of Nebraska Art, and they were kind of nervous, because they said, and I said, well, I mean, I can be better than what you have in here anyway, just what I got in the studio, you know. It's not like all the stuff you have up is that good. They didn't like hearing that. I mean, it's true, you know. So I said, you get nervous ain't going to help. I'm the one that's got it. So I noticed they didn't have any, they had these drawings called the Catlin drawings, which were documentation of the Native American culture before it got decimated. And then they had, in the same room, the ledger drawings, which is after the decimation, they took the ledgers and you could draw art in the back. And I was pretty pissed, and they didn't have any contemporary Native American. So the whole show was based on a Glenn Ford cowboy movie where they decimate the Indians. So I made these teepees as a model to this TV thing that was really impactful. And here I'll show you. Then I made movie theaters with racist cowboy things on the floor so you could watch these movies, and mirrorized it. And then I put up work that I don't like. And I got in trouble because I made these arrows and was shooting arrows at my own work because I thought it would be really, because the TV show, there's arrows everywhere and things, and I thought it'd be really neat to have a gallery. And it changed a lot. I got in trouble. I collected liquor bottles and glued them together and made medicine wheels, and the whole show constantly changed. This is Florida. And so I would get calls sometimes, like a month before, and would you come and do an installation? And I had a really unique relationship with a glass company, and they would send me tons of material for years, like decades, and I'd figure out what to make right there a lot of times, or I have ideas. Sometimes I would challenge, sometimes I notice that my best work comes instinctively and in short notice. When I have a long time to figure it out, it drives me nuts, I always weigh the paperwork, like when you draw and wait. Then from the installations, I started making objects because people started selling glass. And I worked during this installation, wrong way. During this installation, I think I was working for UPS. I had jobs that supported me most of my life until I don't want to tell you how old I am, but until late 90s. I always had something, which in many ways kind of made my studio process less about art dealers and that marketing thing, which was kind of brief. So then I made ladders and objects that initially came from my subconscious, or just, I don't like the square painting. I always thought making the painting square was kind of weird, But this one's 10 feet, it's big, and the slide is kind of distorted. And, I love, because I have a craft history, I love the language of materials, kind of an instinctive way. And I love painting, and I'm kind of a maker. These houses, and it was in North Carolina. It's about 6-7 feet. I collaborate a lot, and it gets tricky. It's usually the other person want to make it cost money or something. So they're kind of like canvas. I look at them as canvases, three-dimensional canvases. And I don't necessarily talk much about the symbolism, and it's more about, I generally, I think an artwork can be built around any concept, anything. And I think there's ways of filtering these concepts to core instincts. Even the Barbie, I'm not sure what it is, but, because I saw the Barbie show. Now, I'm sorry to talk about the Barbie show, but I saw the show being implemented, and I was like, what the heck, Barbie? They're all white, man. That's the first thing I thought. Forgive me. That's not fair. And I thought about every time I took my daughter to a movie, all the lead kids were white, and she had a complex. I had quit taking her to the dang movie. So I thought, what could I do? And then then I got past that, because I'm a curmudgeon in disguise. I'm always complaining. And so and there's something there that I instinctively like about the show. I don't know if it's the clothing, the diversity of the clothing, or the 70s and how things change in your thinking. And it's kind of stimulated I found I've already been stimulated by the thing, and it's amazing. It's kind of an odd thing. So, you know, my mom was a spiritual healer, so I couldn't get away with nothing when I was a teenager. I swear to God, once I hid marijuana in the garage underneath the lawn. I get home, she's holding the bed. Then I hid it in my dad's shirt socks. And then he's home early, and she says, "Was that your pot?" Man, and then, so things that are invisible and how we feel are very much a part of my life as objects. So when they died, I was like, hey, you know, like our family, they become ministers when you get in trouble. They do. And so I'm like, hey, so a lot of the work, you know, I had to kind of readdress. And then the preacher we don't like the preacher because he's up to no good sometimes. And he's talking about my mom. So this is different. Because your mom is okay, but not mine, you know. So I had to address what my sense, how do I define my spirituality to deal with the grief and the change. And I got interested in the Buddha icon and Shinto and, you know, and stuff like that. And I don't think it's my business to talk specifically about it, but it did have a lot to do with what I chose to make. When I was involved in Omaha, and I still am, there's this guy named Stanley there who was a Ponca chief that was relocated to Oklahoma, and he wrote back. That's why he didn't go on the left. And I was and I don't draw that well, but I kind of wanted to address him. And he left the res, and he got locked up. He left the resident in Oklahoma to bury his son. And then he got arrested for being off the res, but he won the case. He spoke. Probably the most important part of the speech was he said, "All our blood is red," and he was very eloquent. And he was given citizenship. So he was the first Native American allowed off the res, and it changed all the rules. They did take advantage of the fact that it was a citizenship because they could legally confiscate the tribal lands, which they did. And there's a lot of terrible things that did happen, but he's kind of like the Martin Luther King of at least that part of the world, because he did create freedoms that didn't exist. And there's things in my life, I don't want to talk about them, that dealt with his acknowledgement that deal with archiving information for the future. I'm very involved with the archiving of traditional Native American stories in the Midwest and things, and also medicine and things like that. This is a music box where I still scream. So I make the tree. I went to Africa. There's some people here from Africa. I've never been to South Africa here. But thank you for coming, and Robin and Julie for bringing them. But there was a tree. It had glass in it. They told me don't be messing with the tree. You know, it had spirits. So I started building these. I made about 8 of these things that, you know, it's come from kind of personalized stories, but I don't care to get into them. I think I showed you that slide. Yeah, this is the wall. This was the imagery. You know, it's really weird. The imagery comes from my family. I did the show in Tampa because I'm from there, and I have a history. My parents were. It's kind of the last 6 months. It kind of got altered because you know, I was supposed to be 30% Native American, and I found out no, I've got 30% white and 60% African. You know, once I got the chart. So I've been fussing with my family because they be talking about our Native American heritage, and I'm like, I'm a mutt. I'm like 10 different things. So I give up, you know. And I think a lot about culture and stuff, but this is the painting is a compilation of things in the collection that I was interested in. Family pictures, I call it vegetation. And you know, I I see things before I make them sometimes. It's weird. I can see these are just smaller objects that maybe people can have. There's a mirror chair. It's big. It's like 16 feet tall. It's a pain in the neck. I made 2 of them, and the people insist I keep them. Man, could you imagine having to store that thing? Just physically, it's a pain in the neck. But this is at the Bemis, actually, at the foundation, and I think I told the director about the show I had there, and so they wanted me to do another show, and I said I'll do it on the dock, but not inside because other artists should have it. I've had, I calculated the space that's been given to me, and they should. There's more artists in Omaha than me. They should give it to them. So that's what they did, and then someone wanted to buy it, and we turned it into a commission. You see, the house behind it was pretty ugly. That's something you imagine they live in that thing. So that's where we had it right out, and I was like, not good. Oh man, taking something that big and like changing the foundation so you can tilt it to save it is better. But I made it out of metal, and he gave some money to the organization and some money to me, mostly to me. These are some paintings. I'm not that good at painter, if you want to know the truth, but I'm pretty good at fixing things. The glass and the language. I think I'm pretty good at the language, the material language and density of glass and how to use it. But I can reproduce. I've had the Hydra show, I think I showed you earlier, they let me assimilate some of the objects in the collection. So like I got to get the largest crystal bowl in the world and put it in the show, the case. And I got a Van Gogh and a Cezanne, real ones. So they were like objects in this thing. And I remember I was leaning back in the trip and I put a dent in the Cezanne, like a pretty good dent with my elbow. I went back and it didn't hit the wall, it hit the painting. So it didn't tear it, but I wasn't too happy about calling it in. So I put the ladder over here. So when you came in, you couldn't see the dent. And every time for like 6 hours, and if somebody came, I would kind of redirect them over there, And the dent went away by the time. And then I called them, and it was less dramatic of an event. And they thought it was fine, but they did put a box over it. So I was pissed off about this. After looking at it, I was like, this painting is not worth $6 million, It was. So I tried to copy it, and I realized I copied it so well that the security thought, I didn't know I could do that I could copy from 2 dimensions. And they thought that I was painting, they looked up and saw me and didn't pay attention. And they thought I was painting the original one on it. And I almost, I got tackled and I was on the floor, but I figured that out, and now and at one time I hired illustrators, but they couldn't paint it right, and I would always fix it, which is, so it's interesting. Each panel is 4 feet by 4 feet, and these are just these constructions that are, there's a chronological timeline when I make this kind of work. I'm not sure why, but they're almost like stamps. I enjoy the collections, and they're almost consolidations of I'm not sure quite what to say, While I'm here, I'm going to make some hands. That's one of the things I didn't mean to remind you that, Robert. These are just some of the paintings, and this is pretty small. It's about the size of the image, actually. This one is towering, and there's a lot of, they're kind of about balance, form, and structure. What's her name? The first Bessie, she got sabotaged, because she was the first female black pilot, aviator, and they fixed the plane so it would crash, and that's how she died. Somebody did that to her. food's pretty good. Oops, sorry. Oops, I missed it. Oops, did I do something wrong? Okay. I was talking to someone about a sukkah, which the holiday is a Jewish holiday. So that's the sukkah. It has 3 walls, and it's really, I think it's more about, the sukkah it's like a harvest kind of festival, but it's built, its seed idea or source in history is in the time the Jews were in the desert for 40 days or something like this. So it's a time, and traditionally people that are in the Judaic faith build a 3-sided tent structure or with sheets in the back, and you give and you share food and you do stuff. So this place called the Skirball, which is kind of like a Judaic ground zero in Los Angeles, asked me to make one. So it has to have very specific objects and things like that. And so I made it just because I was really excited to source making things outside my own intellect. And I've always been interested in different kind of Islam and Judaic stuff. So now they want me to revisit the piece. So that's been really stimulating, just in terms of how to think about it. That was fabulous. This was kind of my first public piece. And I wrote the book on what not to do in public art. It was called I Can't Deal with This Anymore. This is torture. And it went through, everything I make, including my paintings, even the ladder that they have here. I don't think it should last forever. I mean, oh my God, But, so I had never really made anything that had to be permanent. So I had to get involved with engineers, and because it's in the subway, it's kind of, this circle is 27 feet, so it's 2 stories below the ground, and you're on a subway platform in the picture. And the ladder is 16 feet. It's not done. So it was originally engineered in all glass, and as you can see in Los Angeles, the earthquake, these things got covered, and this ended up being covered with that chloride glass. And I called it Into the Light. The neighborhood was tough, really tough. But this is the second I made the chandeliers in Los Angeles. Kind of big toys, nature, humanity, and spirituality. So they're tall, like from this thing to the top, about 27 feet. They're really big. So and it was really cool because when the building opened, 40,000 people came, including my mom. So I got forgiven for every sin by my mom ever in my family, and that was wonderful. And then anyone that I ever had a fight with came, and it was really wonderful. And they still exist. It's really weird to get older and have something like that exist and become almost an iconic level, because I go there and there's really, it feels okay to have, they give tours, they do all this stuff. Just the birds. The bird's tall. The bird's like 13 feet almost. It's really big. And they screwed up. They didn't put the weight thing in where the locations were. So I had to re-engineer it like in record time. So everything is kind of light. Is that corny? And I piggybacked the budget for the flooring and put in terrazzo. It's kind of like a park, made a park, essentially. So that's what you can sit. There's benches. You can't see them in this photo, but like this is one of the benches. I wanted people to be able to sit and eat and just be in the picture. This is at the Toledo Museum. This thing is really tall. The ceiling's 19 feet to give you scale. And the show was really built around the changes in this. Really, civil rights was a big part of it. But it was a play off of things have changed, even within my life. So like, as a kid, I was confronted with lynching. When I was a little boy, they tried to lynch my grandfather twice, but he was a moonshiner. They didn't do anything. So I was wanting to do something with that. So a lot of that, like that orange figure and figures on that room, which was kind of the fountain room, I called it, were all stencils of lynchings. And I was interested in beauty and just how the world, changed, the Northwest Passage, but much more. So all the walls of the galleries were mirrorized. We mirrorized all the walls so that nothing ever changed the same. It was a big show. It was about the size of this room and a bit more. Right? So the projections were very much about, I was obviously about oil and the Savannahs, and they varied a lot. And so nothing, when you saw the show, it never was stagnant. It was a blown cylinder. And I used a lot of the shapes. It's, color and glass, and color and paint are two different animals. Color and glass is almost a form of mysticism or something. It's like, if you're ever going to go to another place or define this, a physical definition of your implementation of spirituality, I think you're better off using glass than paint unless you approach it much more differently. And one of the things that happened during the show is I discovered that like this image is a friend who was supportive of the show, and he was part of the funding team that sponsored the Southern Christian leadership. And it's kind of interesting, and basically there's 5 glass collectors and 2 or 3 art collectors that were the primary funders of everything that Martin Luther King did, and are major players in the civil rights. And so right now there's been this battle because we got the ledgers. That looks familiar. And the ledgers of the financial transactions. So there's like $60,000 in cash that was given to Abernathy and Martin Luther King to do the watch over the Pettus Bridge. And it's amazing. So I've been fussing with the Black History Museum to include this level of cooperation to broaden the message. This happened here, and it was a good story. It was a major life-changing thing. And I finally got to thank Robin for something he did, which is make this fish out of glass that was a catalyst for this because it was kind of a project that it started as a way to come to this part of the country so I could see my parents, to be honest. And it went for 2 years. There were 2 visits, and then they asked me to see a patient who was going to kick the bucket or die. She had cancer, and she had 2 days to weep, and just do something with her, draw something. And I kind of stumbled around it, and we ended up designing things that she thought would empower other patients. So she was presented with the art concepts that the architect was doing for the hospital and responding as a patient, because everything that's there is supposed to help the patients. And she wasn't too receptive to a lot of the things that were presented. And as a result, I thought, well, what do you do when you have a weak left? Getting drunk ain't gonna help, right? So who needs a hangover 2 days before you die, you know what I mean? Or whatever, and she thought helping other patients. And in this process, she got better, like from the first hour. And things kind of changed. And we ended up doing this together, really. She was kind of the lead patient. And in the end, we ended up with a total of 13 patients that were diagnosed at that hospital as being terminally ill, of which 8 are still here. And they couldn't believe the numbers. And it became a and I just thought, so it's a process where I engage it at other facilities. It's become part of my practices. it had started, I had been interested in pediatric ecology. It was a big part of my own personal recovery. I had a 2-year spout way before the internet existed where I was kind of a gangster because I got tired of the jobs. I watched too many gangster movies or something, and ended up working at cancer camps and finding my spirit. But and you know, it's I think there are 87 fish, and you can see there's room for more. It's something I'm entertaining doing. I got confirmation today that they still like the piece. You know, things change over time. New designers come in and go, that lights look bad, you know, they do this kind of stuff. And you gotta bear in mind, and the fabric for the institution was favorable. They collaborated with Perry's studio, and that was remarkable. I give Charlotte and Robin and Julie, everybody credit, and where the concept of what art and healing, and it also connected me to a different way of being part of medicine, which is something I love, being a part of. You see the fish. Some people donated money. A lot of money got donated on this Adopt a Fish program. And I honestly don't think CHKD treated Perry Studio very fairly. They was a fundraiser, they raised money, but they didn't really kind of like make it easy for the studio in the end. But so this is in a temple in Israel, a tri-faith facility. There's a serious like mosque and a church and a synagogue triangulating each other, and they're serious facilities, like $40 to $60 million. These facilities invested, and the Abrahamic, is that the right word? Faith. So this is. I gotta change it. It's really weird to make something and everybody's happy but you don't like it. And this is one of them. The pieces aren't good. I don't know what it is. It's just felt like the ladder was built and it's out of it's actually built out of tri. There's another replacement ladder and I have to put it in and it's translucent when you look at it, but it's also acrylic. So it does more with the light. And the vessels are bigger that I'm making. Telfair. It's really weird. I gained a lot of weight on this project because the piece is very much about Savannah. Savannah had a terrible history. Am I talking too long? You sure? You're in the back. You doing all right? You're okay? Okay, good. And, I got there, and that's where, Savannah was the economic beneficiary, the primary of slavery. You know, they get a cotton gin. It was like, so a lot of the things about Savannah are not good. So the piece has, you can't see it, but there's different aspects of it that deal with the luxurious, like this furniture in there and stuff, the different lifestyles of slavery and the people with the money. This is in Denmark. I had 7 rooms and I did 7 different installations simultaneously. But I also worked, wherever I go, this room doubled as a classroom for kids with special needs, mostly autism. So they did painting with snakes, come here, and these windows, it was strategically placed so they drove by it. So when they came to the museum, it's also making the museum part of the community. So I did programming for months there to integrate, like tourists would come to the museum, but not the community. No, I could not. So we started implementing kind of like kids programs there that people could do, you know. But this room is another one of the rooms. The paintings, the light, you can see the light is really different there. Comes at angles and stuff. This is, I think, another installation. I'm not sure where it is. Oh, this is at Ringling. I'm just going to show you now. Below the heads, so you can see. This is, it's actually out of aluminum, and the leaves, they're kind of big. Originally, they were all going to be So they're out of aluminum, and they're sold very simply, but they're just cut. I made them out of paper, and, you know, placed them in, you know, and it's there. And they kind of activated this space, and as a result, they made a food court below it, and now it's turned into a carnival. But you know, there, so you can see how they're made. They look better white, you know? It's really bumming me out. I want to paint them white. I asked them, can you paint them white? Because they look better. They make sense. You see the form better. The color, it looked like a freaking amusement park. I can't believe it. I don't know what to do, but they won't let me do it, you know? It's like, paint it white. They look good in the studio. They filled my whole room. It's like this whole room of white leaves. It looked better in the studio than in the building, but it worked. This is a painting. I actually did this last year. It's big. It's 38 feet across by 15 feet 6 inches on the curved top. And it's the boxes are deep. Like some of the boxes are like this thick, 2 feet. It's the biggest. So there's nothing that's really flat, and it's very much about. There's a Native American. They call them star maps, and it's what the Plains, there's one intact, and it's what the Plains Indians use to travel, and they mark the stars that they use, and they also have reference points to sacred parts that most people don't know. They don't know why they're there, but they're there because I got the scoop from some of my friends. So it's really, that was the guideline for a lot of where things are. It's actually a secret star map. And then I overlaid it with Nebraska and just how the fields fit. So there's like a standing bear figure and that windmill thing and stuff like that. It's really what comes from an overlay of two cultures. You know, that's making it. You see, what a headache. Because you got to make it from the ground up. So you can see there's boxes inside the box, blown stuff, things like that. There you go. So it's a big thing. Corn, I couldn't help. They used to make these buildings out of corn. I'm going to start working in corn this year. I'm really excited. They used to make corn. There's a working with Mayan and kids, and the corn is such a part of their existence. At the same time, we've got corn as a primary part of this is the wall, and it's at the Canadian Foundation. And then sometimes I take on an impossible task. So like a figure or someone that falsely got accused of murder, who's currently in jail. So the idea was during the show, we did everything possible to get him out. And that's what I advocated during the show. Didn't get him out. He's like, he wasn't too cooperative, but, I don't know. And his family got grumpy on me. Because I have to be honest, the ladder and construction, the people wanted, the cancer center wanted a ladder. And that's the substructure of it. And then, actually, there's two ladders outside I'll show you. This one was done at a garden. I don't really like the garden, if to be honest with you. Everybody's really wealthy, and he picked terrible artists. I ain't the worst. I was like, I hope I'm not that bad, I mean, the work, I was complaining about work to the wrong guy, and he was the guy picking the work, Oh, my God, that didn't go over too good at all. He didn't pick me. So he picked his friends. See them butterflies? Give me a break. One big butterfly. That's easy. That's catering to the lowest level of what people would want to see out there. Like, that's bottom feed to the max. So, but my ladder, you can't get grumpy. That's one of them. And when they go outside and they get tall, they take on a different meaning almost. You get all inspired and people want to talk about hope and growth and change and stuff. And I think working is very much about that. These are some of the heads I've made. I've been thinking about burying some of the ones. Pittsburgh, I did a mural. If you want a nice mural, don't let me paint it. That's all I can tell you. But the best thing of the mural for me was I got stuck up there, and this amazing, dangerous lightning rainstorm came through. So it was pretty much like getting thrown in a washing machine, you know? And I was like, this is it. Okay, come on and get me, you know? You know, I've always been, you know, I've actually, I have a friend, the way they describe him, he's the last one that knows what to do. And he is kind of he's a medicine man, and he's the real thing for the Midwest. And there's no one that carries his knowledge. And he tells me goofy things, and I share them with kids, and they get well all the time. You know, and they're not very mystical things, you know, like he grew up and he had no he was what do you call it? He was, like, instead of going to school, they pulled him away because they thought it was different, and he was told all these stories and stuff. So he had to go to school because the police said, somebody's going to jail if the kid doesn't go to school. He heard the word death, and he didn't know what it was, because he always thought of it as being transference. But this was, it's terrible to have fun. I have fun at kind of terrible times sometimes. You know, like once I was carjacked, and I had fun. I was like, okay, how am I going to get this guy's gun down and get him back? And sure enough, I was about to get him back, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't want to hurt anybody. You know? Oops. There, I wanted, memories a big part of the work, and I wanted a show that looked like your memory. That was almost synonymous with memory. Like when you processed the physical thing, it just had a closer connection. So I made most of the stuff out of mirror. The few objects that I enjoyed making. You know, the big goblet. This is teaching. I taught a lot internationally because the arts and embassies sent me out, and they figured out I was pretty good at just making the most of situations. I think I'm pretty good anyway. I don't know. You may have a different opinion after this visit. But, so I had something bad happen, really bad. Like the worst thing could happen, which is I did a show at this glass factory that was preserved and turned into a museum from the early 1800s. So it has this giant cone, furnace in the middle. It has all this historical equipment. Maybe there's a picture of it. I'll show you. Oops. Well, it has a machine that turns, and you go like that, you put the grass in it, and bubble wrap comes out, made out of grass. It has button machines, big color rods that's tall, and you heat the end of it, and it's this thing you heat up, and they stamp buttons out of these long rods with color. And it's a factory from 1823, I think it is, but it's all intact now. The cold shop is driven by a river, the wheel, and the belt turns another belt that goes inside the building, and you can put these belts on it, and that turns the wheels. It's a beautiful place. So I made the show from scratch. I may have a picture of it. And they ordered, instead of getting 6 tons of glass, somebody put a 2 in front of the 6, and I got 26 tons of material. And one of them fell at the plant and killed this guy. The guy was dead, 1,000-kilo crate. So they wanted to cancel the show, and I said, no, whatever we do, we have to dedicate it to this guy. We have to pull out all the rules. It doesn't matter what happens financially, at least from my side. So I went there and spent about a week just walking and looking at the river, and kids were free. I started letting the kids design the show. You know what I mean? And so they gave me that Easter egg that day, and they had all these wishes in it, you know, and it happened. It really did. And not only that, like the kids said, make a beehive out of glass. So we had so much glass, we didn't care. The thing weighs 2 tons. It was that heavy. So, you know, I don't know why sides of that. But in the end, the museum didn't have an education program, and it was state-run, and there's one at stone, steel, fabric, ceramics. But as a result, two things happened. One is, when the show opened, word went around Europe, and all my heroes, like Irwin Eich and people like that, came to the opening. And the other is the state, the German government, decided to have education programming in these museums, and they named it after the guy who died. And his mother was so taken, but we've become friends forever. And and sometimes I dedicate a lot of the programming I do to, this is just some of the Omaha tribe. And I do exhibitions a lot, kids, their work. This is a show. I think we're working about 8 different tribes, and the kids do ceramics and opening. And this was an image of how the kids, like, I always get in fights, like somebody wants to do we need to do a survey, right? And so the kids have to write. They don't come back. So I said they do their own survey, and they have to create their own tribes and take their own pictures. So we created this thing, and they're like, these are some of them, it's a medicine wheel. I worked at a preschool for First Nations. So I devised a way to teach them tradition for the Plains, the 11 Plains tribes. That was consistent. Because I had to study their migration and figure out what traditions are specific. So we built this medicine wheel, which became a facility. Like, the school system was designed to destroy culture, period. Nothing in between, the American. So how does that shift? And we came up with this template where whatever they did in school had to be built around First Nations values. So one was storytelling, and it worked really well. It had I know more about K-12 education. The challenges of being First Nations is probably anybody from recruitment and post. And this one, you could see the kids, so they could play. There's a turtle and a serpent and all this stuff that was very, I need 3 different medicine people to actually authenticate the location. Where things are and where they're pointed, all kinds. It took 2 years to get past the fighting. Like, the 28 shells on the turtle, no, there's 32 shells on the turtle, and eventually that was settled by finding a turtle that predated their splitting up. But anyway, and this is some of the stuff in Africa I was telling you about. This workshop, I got there and nobody picked me up. So, because time and where they live don't count at this was very remote what would be. Then I got there and there were 35 councils and 6 kids, and they ran off and told the villages that I actually showed up. And over 300 kids showed up like that. Boom. And I'm like, hi, and they were like, what are you talking about, Where's the stuff? And so I started dancing, and somebody got some music, and it was wonderful. And then the only paper we could find that day was paper plates. We ran out of paper immediately. And we set up the only structure that was there, and that way like 12 or 13 kids would come in at a time. Hey, this is the second day. It was supposed to be 3 hours, and it went on for almost 3 days. And by the second day, the ambassador got all excited, and they started a program as a result of Art as a Diplomatic Tool, of which I'm the only guy they ever used. And they had a show outside. It was tough, because 60% of these kids died by the age of 10. This is in Omaha. I worked with there's one short, chubby dude you can see in there, that's me. Everybody else is like 6 feet and over. But it's a basketball mentorship program that I work with. This was the first generation, so all these people saw their families murdered, every single one of them murdered, machetes and stuff. So I dealt with sort of a Sudanese form of PTSD, and so their basketball sessions were exclusively South Sudanese, and I don't know why I ended up being able to do it, and I just dealt with how to deal with those things and issues related to it. Because, you know, some of these kids, there's all kinds of issues related to sports and opportunities. You know, some of these kids were being recruited by colleges at the age of 14. Really, just about. Then I do this too, which is we raise money for kids, girls, only girls, college education. So it's graduation, and they send me pictures. And it's special needs. I work with the kids. This project, the kids, they drew a fish, and I deal with a big part of my life currently is special needs education in public schools. That way, and just how to build a real curriculum. So we are in the art, but we're being given a license to start. The next one is cooking and English, and what does that look like for? So, and it's tricky because you got 7 different disabilities at the same time in a classroom. So it's like, how does curriculum for this population function as a scaffolding to work from? And then how you know, so everybody think I know a lot about it, and I absolutely had no idea what to do as we move through it. It's kind of a David Chappelle show in disguise movie. Sometimes I'll paint my head, you know, the kid's really desperate, you know, but this is, so you make the fish. These are just things, we just do stuff all the time. This is in the Legend Museum in Mobile. And they're doing a project with them. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet, and I'm still in the conception phase. This is all these kids, they're bad. They're in prison. Like this kid here has 33 years in prison for shooting people. They're bad. So if they get through this program at STAR, they can have their sentences dramatically reduced and sometimes released. So they asked me to work with them, and I said, I'll make you a sculpture or something, you know? And it was tough, because, you know, and I'm pretty, you know, so we made this thing, and a lot of the imagery comes from the local tribes. It's tough, it's really, and you know, they won't take it down. I've been trying to tell them, because it wasn't me. The boxes leak water, they get filled with water. I came in, and half the thing was completely filled with water. So we drilled holes in the glass at the bottom, and it looked like it's peeing. The water's coming out, you know. And then I'm amazed it didn't. So this is just more of the special needs. I teach him out with David, and he's been educating me. I kind of learned. This is, you know, this is James Searle's work, and that's James Searle, the artist. And the reason I'm showing you is, you know, the kids made sculptures blindfolded, the special needs kids. And James, like, we will build a curriculum from an artist, and, okay, I'm almost done, so don't worry, okay? And these are just some of the things that we've built. Some of the shows, the kids have shows. They paint on the glass, and they suspend stuff. And they all have, some have, and we don't really worry about the outcomes. The cool thing is, the kids learn how to use tools by doing this project. First, we taught them that they were instruments because they were scared of the noise. And then we sort of phased it in based on each capacity. This is a product. I made these birds and hung them up, and they paid me at this facility. So I find myself in cancer facilities a lot, and facilities that deal with people with developmental and physical challenges. The kids make flowers. So they've been doing, like Dale Chihuly does shows at botanical gardens. We do shows with the kids. They make a lot of the plantings. Then there's there's a project, they do it at the Museum of Glass, where the kids draw things and they make objects. This is just some of the drawings and stuff. So towards the end, I think it's the last one. It's a 17-foot ladder at a cancer treatment facility. And the thing, it got a crack, and I had paint there and laminate. So that was kind of neat because the patients started coming out and helping me paint. And then I said, so, you know, and it was tough because most of them are on the way out of here, you know, and so I'm like, well, you can, you know, and they all left feeling better. So now they want me to work there, you know. It's just, there it is again. So it's pretty big. That's the last one. So I didn't mean to be too narrative about this and not explaining the pieces. If you have questions, I'll be here for a while, and I'm here for 3 days. I'm excited to be in the shop, and just, this is probably the most exciting thing in glass that's going on, for sure. I mean, I'm total awe, you know, because the people here don't make a big fuss and have accomplished so much. I just, so that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, let's give it up. Now, do you want to take questions, or do you want to
I'll take questions if you
mingle
have any.
casually, or how do you want to do it? Questions?